fellow Kotanas, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Cropivian, and today I'm doing a top 10 of my favorite episodes from Season 1 of Supernatural. 15 seasons it ran, and every season had its own special feel to it. Even Season 6. But this year marks the 20th anniversary of Supernatural, so first of all, time flies by way too damn fast. Son of a bitch! Next, I just wanted to do something to show my appreciation for this amazing show, so important to me, growing up and still to this day and for the rest of time. Without further ado, here's my top 10 favorite episodes from Season 1 of Supernatural. Number 10, Wendigo. This episode was a little bit chaotic to a degree in terms of how they had to shoot it in certain ways. I mean, you don't really ever get a clear look at the Wendigo, but it's effective, and I think it's more effective that way because it kind of leaves it up to the imagination as to what the full creature looks like. Now, I know there are images, backstage images, of what the latex suit looked like because that's all it was. That's all they could do in order to get the Wendigo on screen. But that didn't take away, for me anyway, from the effectiveness of this episode. After such a great pilot episode with the Lady in White, it was such a good follow-up to that episode. Wendigo brought it to a bigger, more intense level. And you got both Sam and Dean out there in the woods trying to hunt a creature that is, one, pretty damn fast, can't just be killed by regular old knives, bullets, or anything else. You gotta get flares in order to kill it, or anything flammable. And it was just such an effective episode. And that cold open was so effective to introduce the Wendigo. And number 9, Home. Home was I think, probably one of the most important episodes to Season 1, especially. Because it's the one where we dive a little bit more into what happened 22 years ago in the realm of the story with Sam and Dean's mom, Mary, getting killed, and we are thrust into this story with Sam having these visions, which brings Sam and Dean back to Lawrence, bringing Dean to a point of, you really want me, or you're really asking me to go back to a place that I swore I'd never go back to. John Winchester appear at the end of the episode, and that little detail, him coming in at the end of the episode, was showing that he was definitely paying attention to what the brothers were doing and what they were encountering, but also there's that little hint of he knows that he can't be around them just yet. And not until he knows the truth of what's really going on. It was one of the first episodes where emotion really ranked high in the episode, because there's obviously Sam and Dean have to go back to the home where everything started for them and why they're even hunters in the first place. But it touched on all the points, and the fact that Mary, her ghost, is in there, still in that house, haunting it with a more negative energy and more negative poltergeist energy in there, being nasty to the current family that's living in there. I mean, it was just such a good push and pull from that episode all the way through. Number 8, Bloody Mary. I love the urban legend of Bloody Mary, as do a lot of people out there. It's a very interesting urban legend. And this show did it in its own way, as it did most urban legends. This, though, was probably one of the better done versions of Bloody Mary that has ever been done on screen. The fact that, once again, we learn a little bit more about Sam and his plight with Jessica's death, and Dean struggling to try and get Sam to talk to him about Jessica's death. And it has that emotional pull to it that a lot of the episodes in Supernatural did so well and hit upon so well. It was really one of those episodes where sacrifice and protection. Dean clearly the protector, Sam wanting to sacrifice himself because he feels that it's the only way or that it's the right thing to do. And that was always, especially early on in the early seasons, that was always the constant push and pull between Sam and Dean. And not even just in the early episodes, it was constant throughout the entirety of the show's lifetime. But Bloody Mary, and especially the way that they end up finishing Bloody Mary, it's just all so well done. The fact that they use a mirror on Bloody Mary, you couldn't write it any better than that. You couldn't have finished that episode any better than that. Number 7, Faith. Come on. How can you not love an episode where Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper comes on? Right there, that tells you you're going to be in for a ride. And it's also the first episode where we are introduced to the idea of Reapers in the show. Little bit different look to the Reapers than what we would become used to over the course of the show. Back to the emotional push and pull of this show, instead of it being Sam and Dean in the forefront all the time, it's more a question of, if we do this, is it really the right thing? And this comes more for Dean's side than Sam's side in this episode, because Dean comes across a girl who is currently dying of cancer, and this faith healer, or what she believes to be a faith healer, she's gone to several times and hasn't been picked, and Dean ends up having a hard time with coming to terms that it was the right thing to do, as he says at the end of, near the end of the episode, to Sam, asking him, "We did the right thing here, right?" And just everything, to see a different side of Dean, kind of similar to the episode Dead in the Water, where you see a little bit of a different side from Dean. You kind of get to know him as this brash and almost cocky kind of human being and character that is more pushing forward and just wanting to get to the end game. But those episodes show a much more down-to-earth side to Dean. And Jensen Ackles is definitely one of the best actors out there, and he is the only one that could have pulled Dean off in this show. Nobody else could have, and it highlighted Dean so well in the episode of Faith, and the fact of how they get to him with Dean getting shocked in the opening of that episode, and Sam trying to find a way to keep Dean alive, and it changes Dean's protection to Sam having to now protect Dean. Even as a fan, you're wondering, was that really the right thing to do? Should they have just let the Reaper do its thing and let her be healed? Philosophical questions. Gotta love them. Number 6, Hell House. Hell House, this episode, the introduction of, well, what would become the Ghostfacers, but in this episode they were known as Hellhoundslair.com. And they were two of the best characters from the early seasons of Supernatural all the way through. They were two of the best characters. Ended on a sour note for those two, of course, but early on they were great comedic breaks for the show. And this episode was more on the comedic side. Wasn't really what we had seen prior to this episode airing. And it was actually very important because it showed the brotherhood of Sam and Dean, but it also showed how they come together and figure out how to deal with different types of things. And the fact that in this one, it comes to the idea of a topa, an incredible way to bring in a new, different kind of legend into the show from another part of the world. Number 5, Scarecrow. I remember watching this episode when it first aired, and when that Scarecrow came on the screen for the first time, I was enthralled. The fact that it turned out to be a pagan god was even more icing on the cake because it brought in new mythology to the show once again, and season 1 wasn't just experimental to see what worked and what didn't, but it was also bringing in new mythologies instead of just sticking to the typical old Americana mythology. It brought in mythology, again, from all over the world, and Scarecrow did that in a really fascinating way. The fact that you got the orchard, you got the town surviving because of the townspeople feeding people to this pagan god, but also you got Dean hunting for the majority of the show by himself because at the top of the show, Sam and Dean have a fight where Sam walks off, where we encounter Meg for the first time. One of the very first demons to have a recurring role on the show, and one of the most iconic on the show. Scarecrow built so much and layered so much into season 1, or why I like it so well, is because of the Scarecrow design itself. Such a cool design, and I gotta say it, dude, you fugly. Number 4, Hookman. This was an important one for Sam because he gets into a situation where he's kind of thrown into a budding relationship, possible relationship with a preacher's daughter who doesn't know that she is kind of the cause of all of the Hookman's killings, to a degree. She's only doing it, or it's only happening because she finds things immoral or against the way she views things, but it's not really all her fault. The Hookman himself is the cause of it all because clearly his spirit still views certain things as immoral. And this episode was memorable for several reasons for me. One of them being the fact that of it having the Hookman in there. That's always been a very interesting urban legend, and I think it's also because I'm a big fan of Candyman. But this was also a very good episode because it showed depths to Sam's character that needed to be seen. There really, even at this point in the season, there hadn't been a whole lot of depth to Sam at this point. You got to know him a little bit, but this was the episode where a lot of depth and a lot of layering got to be uncovered by not only Jared Padalecki playing Sam, but also by us, the fans, watching the show. And it was just such a memorable offing as well for the Hookman, as the Silver Cross would burn in the furnace, and the Hookman melting the hook first. And a great offing. Number 3, Skin. Hey man, nice shot. Kicking that show off with so much intensity right off the bat. And this was the introduction of shapeshifters. Shapeshifters were always more an effect on Sam and Dean themselves, especially Dean in this episode, as it takes his face and does it to harm Sam's friend Becky from college. And those effects where we see a shapeshifter shedding its skin, it's probably the only time where we see that I can remember in the show, but it was so effective and so well done that it didn't ever really need to be done or shown again because it was done so effectively that at that one point in time. Number 2, Something Wicked. You know, it took me a long time to try and get the name of the Striga down right, but I finally got it down properly. This was an important episode for Dean specifically. And as a fan of Dean, this was a very emotional episode for that character. That episode showed how much he not only cared for Sam, but was willing to throw himself into the literal fire to protect Sam and to save Sam from the fate of death or just being hurt in general. Going back and seeing I believe it's the earliest episode where we go back, aside from the pilot, where we see Sam and Dean as kids and how that relationship was when they were kids. And those two actors playing young Sam and young Dean in this episode did a phenomenal job. Dean gets the kill in the end to set things right for him, and he's able to move forward from a mistake that he made when he was a kid. The way that they introduced the Striga is it carries an eerie feel to it. It carries an aura about it too. Number 1, Dead Man's Blood. This was by far my favorite episode of season 1. It was a great episode, and the fact that it's really the only episode where you actually get to see the brothers go on a hunt with John and see how all of that chaos and that craziness between Sam and John and Dean being in the middle of it, and then Dean eventually stepping up to his father, and everything is amazing. But it's also the episode that introduces vampires to the show's lore. And I love the fact that in this show, vampires can't be killed outright by sunlight. They can survive. It stings and it burns them badly, but it doesn't necessarily kill them. But Dead Man's Blood was also important because it brought in the cult. An amazing episode where everything starts to come to a head for season 1, but ultimately to see the Winchester trio go at it against a vampire nest, the only episode where we ever see that is a phenomenal episode in and of itself, just because of the fact that we get to see Sam, Dean, and John Winchester all go at it, and it shows how well they work as a trio all together for that one common goal. While John obviously takes the lead, the boys show that they've been through their own versions of hell early in the season and show John just how far they've come through everything that not only John has put them through, but they've been through themselves. That is my top 10 of season 1 episodes from the show of Supernatural. A great first season, and what would follow in the next 14 seasons, including season 6. I know a lot of people don't like season 6, but hey, it's still Supernatural, guys. I still love it. But season 1 had so many great episodes and so many good introductions of characters. I mean, we introduced Bobby, Meg, Azazel, Yellow-Eyed Demon, John, Sam and Dean themselves, everything that would eventually come to fruition in the early seasons in season 5. It all began in season 1, and I'm going to talk more about idea of season 5 being the true ending to Supernatural, because I keep hearing that a lot, but I'm going to get into that into another video. This is going to conclude my first episode of my top 10 favorite episodes from Supernatural. So, I thank everybody so much for watching. Always remember to imagine your dream, create your happiness, and live your life on the edge, and I will see you in that next episode. See ya.